Good to see you, Dr. Glanville. Thanks for joining us again. Let's start on the rollout of the vaccine, if we may. Sarah just had the numbers there. 25 million distributed, only 9 million administered. Is that disappointing?
Hi, Wilford. So, yeah, obviously we'd like to see more of these vaccines in people. This is a logistical challenge, and it seems like it's bureaucratic challenges at the level of the individual states. But this is also the kind of thing that gets sorted out over the next few weeks and months. So I'm relatively confident that we are going to be addressing the distribution challenges. Then we really do get into the manufacturing question, and then finally convincing people to feel comfortable about being vaccinated.
We saw that change in position from the HHS Secretary earlier in terms of no longer holding back second doses from being used for people for first instances. Does that make sense to you?
You know, it does. The advantage of not holding back the doses is you can give more people their first dose faster. That's based on a calculation that they're going to produce more. There's more in the pipeline, and that's reaching out. So rather than holding on to doses, you can give more people their first dose. This is based also on the estimates by the vaccine companies that they're scaling up manufacture. So there won't be a risk of a bunch of people having a first dose and then being stuck not getting their second dose. So I think it's a good idea.
This is really going to be a challenge for the Biden administration. I mean, after inauguration next week, he and his team are going to be in charge of distributing these vaccines at a larger scale. Is there anything they can really do? They talk about, you know, a different approach, but is there anything they can really do differently than the Trump administration, given that it is being administered and regulated by the states?
Well, you know, that comes down to the balance of state power versus federal power. I think there are more things that they could do to provide logistical support services. And I think it's incumbent on them to make sure that there's lots of vaccine, it's distributed out to where people have access to it, and to support the states in helping out with policies. I think the policies also are going to get a little easier. So far, I think we had an additional challenge. We wanted to prioritize, for good reason, giving these vaccines first to frontline healthcare workers, the elderly. As that gets relaxed, it gets a little easier just to say, okay, it's a free-for-all. Anybody who wants, sign up and come in, and that'll speed up the process of us being able to distribute these vaccines.
How good are the treatments now? And even if we continue to see cases spike and hospitalization rates rise, are we past the worst of the COVID deaths?
No, unfortunately, we're still in the growth phase. So the good news is that the vaccines are very effective. In particular, the Pfizer, BioNTech, and the Moderna vaccines are about 95% effective, which is really good for vaccines. And they look quite safe. That's good news, and you're going to get everyone vaccinated. But the problem is we are just constantly accelerating the number of new people that get infected, and it's going to take some time before the wave of vaccines, the number of people that are protected by vaccines, are going to significantly impact and slow down the progression of new infections. So unfortunately, for the next few months, we are anticipating to continue to have very heavily impacted hospitals.
We're also watching these variants and the mutations. There's one in Asia now, the UK one, the South African one. How likely is it that we could see mutations for this COVID-19 virus that do escape the vaccines and the antibody treatments that we have on the market now? And how difficult would that be?
Sure. So we're all paying a lot of attention to these escape mutants. This is where I have mostly good news, but also a bit of a word of warning. The major mutations that people are, escape variants, or not escape variants, but mutants that people are concerned about are the UK strain, which seems like it proliferates faster, so it infects people more rapidly. That seems to also be happening with a South African strain and potentially a variant that's also occurring in Japan. The truth is, as you have more people infected, you're going to have more mutants occurring, and eventually we're going to see these kinds of strains popping up. So far, the strains do appear like they might be more infectious in some cases, but they do not appear to have enough mutations in them that the vaccines would stop working. The spikes are still about 99% identical between what's in the vaccine shot and those new strains. Eventually, with enough people infected, this, of course, is the risk that there would be enough mutations that the vaccine would be less effective. And that's why we're paying a lot of attention to the South African strain so far, because it has 3 mutations right on the spot that's the most important to neutralize. So if that thing continues to mutate, then we potentially have a concern. The big thing that we need to do here, the best thing we can do, is get as many people vaccinated as possible, because then there's less new people getting infected and less new chances for new mutations to accumulate.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.